right now, as you listen to this, an algorithm is silently deciding if a microscopic smudge on a slide is cancer.
Yeah, and at the exact same moment, another algorithm is deciding what jacket you're most likely to buy this Tuesday.
Right. While a third is writing a pop song, and a fourth is calculating the exact trajectory of a cyclist so a two-ton vehicle doesn't hit them. Welcome to April 12th, 2026.
It really is everywhere.
It is. We tend to think of artificial intelligence as this shiny, futuristic tool we actively choose to pick up and use, like a new smartphone or something.
Right.
But the reality is far stranger. We're living through the installation of a new, invisible infrastructure that is constantly pulling on almost every aspect of our daily lives. And, most of the time we don't even see the strings.
That framing really captures the reality of the sources we are looking at today. We're analyzing a highly concentrated AI news digest.
Yeah.
And what leaps out isn't any single, massive technological breakthrough. It's the sheer overwhelming ubiquity of it all.
Yeah.
We're dealing with an infrastructure of intelligence that operates entirely behind the curtain, constantly optimizing the human experience without asking for permission.
Okay, let's unpack this, because it is absolutely wild that a single underlying technology is simultaneously altering completely unrelated industries at the exact same time.
It really is.
So the mission for today's deep dive isn't just to list off a bunch of tech headlines for you. We want to track this invisible hand. We're going to look at the mechanisms driving these changes.
Right, to understand how an AI transitions from being a passive data cruncher sitting in a server room into an active daily collaborator in your life.
Yes, exactly.
To map that transition, we can trace a distinct evolution through 4 sectors highlighted in the digest.
Okay.
The core capability of AI is pattern recognition.
Mhm.
But what happens when you take that fundamental skill and apply it to increasingly chaotic environments?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we can observe this progression by moving from the strict biological rules of healthcare to the behavioral economics of retail, into the physical unpredictability of transportation, and finally into the entirely subjective realm of human entertainment.
Okay, well, let's jump into the deepest end of the pool first. Healthcare.
Okay.
The digest highlights a major breakthrough involving an AI-powered tool for cancer diagnoses. So the researchers have trained an AI using deep learning to analyze biopsy images.
All right.
And the hospitals testing this system report that it's significantly reducing the time pathologists need to evaluate samples. It's minimizing human error, and it's catching cellular abnormalities earlier than humanly possible.
The mechanism here is what makes this so powerful. We throw the term deep learning around a lot.
Yeah, we do.
But to truly understand this, we need to look at how it processes visual data. The AI isn't just looking at a picture of a biopsy and comparing it to a textbook photo of cancer.
Right. It's more complex than that.
Exactly. It uses multiple layers of artificial neural networks. Think of these networks like a series of increasingly microscopic sieves.
Okay.
The first sieve only looks for basic edges of cells. The data passes to the next sieve, which looks for specific shapes. The next looks for cellular density, and so on, down through dozens of layers.
Oh.
By the time the data reaches the final layer, the AI has learned to identify incredibly subtle, mathematically complex visual patterns of abnormality. Patterns that exist at the very edge, or even beyond, human visual perception.
When I was reading about these hospital trials, my mind immediately went to the human element.
How so?
Well, think about a brilliant, highly trained pathologist. No matter how much experience they have, they are still biological creatures, right?
Right, absolutely.
They get eye strain, they get a poor night's sleep, they might be looking at their 400th slide on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
So I don't look at this AI as a robot doctor wheeling into the room to take a job. I see it as a highly advanced spell checker for human biology.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
It doesn't independently write the final diagnosis and send the patient to oncology, but it instantly scans the entire biological document and puts a glowing red line under the dangerous typos, the malignant cells, so the human expert doesn't miss them due to sheer fatigue.
What's fascinating here is how this tool is actively forcing a shift in trust within the medical community.
Right.
Historically, medicine is incredibly resistant to adopting what we call black box technologies.
Explain that a bit for those who might not know.
Sure, a black box system is one where we can see the data going in and we see the answer coming out. But the internal decision-making process, those dozens of microscopic sieves you mentioned, is so complex that humans can't fully read or audit the exact path the AI took to get the answer.
Ah, okay.
Usually doctors reject that. They want to know the why.
Because the stakes are literally life and death. If you make the wrong call, you need to know exactly how the error happened.
Precisely.
Ah,
But the positive feedback from these trials indicates a pragmatic surrender. Yet the AI isn't being viewed as a replacement for human clinical judgment. It's being embraced as a critical failsafe.
okay. That makes sense.
Doctors are looking at the data and realizing that the machine's relentless, unblinking pattern recognition is simply catching things they miss. In the highest stakes environment possible, they are accepting the black box because pairing it with human oversight creates a vastly superior standard of care.
I want to pull a thread you just mentioned, pattern recognition,
Okay.
because this is the exact bridge between these seemingly unrelated industries. If this underlying architecture is masterful at recognizing tiny, microscopic patterns in a sea of healthy human tissue to save a life,
Right.
what happens when that same capability is pointed at macroscopic patterns in human behavior? If it can spot the anomaly on a slide, it can certainly spot the anomaly in how we shop. Which brings us to the retail sector.
Yeah, the underlying math is remarkably similar. The digest points out that major retailers are moving way beyond basic inventory tracking.
Right.
They're deploying AI to run what is essentially a predictive simulation of the consumer market. They feed vast oceans of data into these models, not just past sales, but local weather forecasts, social media trends, economic indicators.
Just an unbelievable amount of data.
Exactly, to predict consumer preferences before they even manifest.
Yeah.
This allows stores to stock hyper-efficiently and drastically reduce supply chain waste.
I was reading between the lines on this, and the specificity is just staggering. We aren't talking about a system that says, winter is coming, order more coats.
No, not at all.
We're talking about a system that correlates a slight drop in local barometric pressure with a 400% spike in people buying umbrellas in a specific zip code.
Yeah.
And it automatically adjusts the logistics to have those umbrellas at the front of the store while simultaneously bumping the price by 5%.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what you are seeing is retail AI executing a dual optimization.
Okay, what does that mean? It's a highly coordinated pincer movement. On one side, you have the background operations, the supply side. The AI is managing the warehouse, predicting bottlenecks, and reducing physical waste.
Right.
But on the other side, as the digest notes, retailers are deploying highly advanced AI chatbots and personalized algorithms on the front lines to actively engage with the customer.
Well, I have to push back on this frontline application because this is where the tech crosses a line for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's one thing for an AI to silently sit in a corporate server, managing warehouse stock to make sure a company doesn't overorder. That is just supply chain math.
Sure.
But the digest mentions these AI chatbots providing personalized assistance and offering dynamic, history-based discounts to close a sale.
Yes, that's true.
The same concept that identifies a tumor is now acting as a retail mind reader. If the AI knows I've clicked on a pair of boots 3 times this week, and it knows it's the day my paycheck hits my bank account,
And the chatbot suddenly pops up offering a perfectly timed 10% discount. I mean, that doesn't feel like a helpful assistant. That feels like a casino optimizing a slot machine just for me.
you're identifying the shift from passive prediction to active demand shaping.
Active demand shape.
Yes, the system is no longer just guessing what you want. It's dynamically altering the environment to ensure you execute the purchase. The chatbot isn't haggling in the traditional sense.
It's not?
No, it's executing a highly calculated behavioral nudge based on thousands of data points about your psychological friction points. The AI knows the exact monetary value required to push you over the edge of hesitation.
So it's optimizing the warehouse inventory to make sure the boots are there, and simultaneously optimizing my psychology to make sure I buy them.
Exactly.
Check your inbox after this deep dive,
Yeah.
Look at the promotional emails you received today and ask yourself what specific behavioral data the AI used to trigger them at that exact minute. It's creating an entirely frictionless environment.
And businesses love a zero-friction environment. Sales go up, customer satisfaction metrics go up because people feel perfectly catered to, and waste goes down.
But friction is a funny thing. In a digital storefront, friction just means an abandoned shopping cart.
Right.
Retail AI navigates pools of data to avoid a digital crash. But take that same predictive brain out of the safety of a server room, force it to navigate the unpredictable, chaotic physical world where friction means 2 objects colliding at 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's a whole different ballgame.
How does it avoid a literal crash on the street? Here's where it gets really interesting. The digest highlights the rapid escalation of autonomous vehicle trials in complex urban environments.
We are moving from the controlled variables of a digital ecosystem into pure physical chaos.
Chaos is the right word for it.
The digest notes several companies are running successful trials of self-driving cars in dense cities. These vehicles are dealing with unpredictable pedestrians, cyclists swerving around potholes, delivery trucks double parking, and complex intersections of bad weather. And the data from these trials is showing incredible promise. The AI is actually proving capable of reducing traffic congestion and significantly lowering accident rates.
The stakes escalation here is dramatic. I mean, if the retail chatbot makes a mistake in its algorithm, I get a discount on the wrong sweater. Oh well.
Right.
If an autonomous car makes a miscalculation while navigating a four-way intersection in the rain, it is quite literally a matter of life and death. The variables are entirely out of the AI's control.
Absolutely.
Think about your own commute this morning, the sheer amount of nonverbal communication, eye contact, and intuition required to navigate traffic. An urban trial isn't a test of software. It's the ultimate driving test where all the other drivers are unpredictable, emotional humans.
This is why the sensory architecture of these vehicles has to be so sophisticated.
How does it even work?
Well, the AI relies on sensor fusion, combining cameras, radar, and LiDAR. LiDAR is crucial here. It fires millions of laser pulses every second, measuring how long it takes for the light to bounce back, to build a hyper-accurate 3D topographical map of the world in real time.
Millions of pulses a second.
Yeah. The AI is processing this map through neural networks, similar to the ones reading biopsies, to predict trajectories. It isn't just seeing a child on a sidewalk. It's mathematically predicting the probability that the child will chase a bouncing ball into the street in the next 1.5 seconds.
Wow.
And it's pre-calculating the braking force required to stop. Mechanically, the machines are becoming better, faster, and more attentive drivers than we could ever be.
But wait, if the technology is this capable, if it has superhuman reaction times and a 360-degree view of the world, why aren't we all being chauffeured around by robots right now?
Good question.
The digest mentioned that momentum is building, but it flagged some massive hurdles that have nothing to do with the tech itself.
This raises an important question about the profound gap between technological capability and societal readiness.
Yeah.
The bottlenecks preventing mass adoption are human psychology and legal bureaucracy. We're perfectly happy to trust AI with our credit card data, and as we saw, doctors are beginning to trust it with cancer screenings.
Right.
But physically surrendering the steering wheel, putting our fragile biological bodies into a metal box controlled entirely by millions of lines of code, that requires a level of visceral psychological trust that we simply haven't developed yet.
I think it comes down to the illusion of control.
Definitely.
I know the data says the AI is mathematically safer, but if I'm holding the steering wheel, even if I'm technically a worse driver with slower reflexes, I feel safer because I am the one making the decisions.
Exactly.
If something goes wrong, I want to know there is a human to blame. If an algorithm makes an unprotected left turn and causes a crash, who do I yell at?
You've hit on the exact regulatory nightmare the digest mentions. The liability framework for autonomous vehicles is incredibly murky.
I can imagine.
If an AI car crashes, how does the legal system parse fault? Do we blame the driver who was legally allowed to read a book while the car drove? Do we blame the manufacturer?
Right.
Or do we blame the software developer who pushed a code update to the vehicle's neural network 3 days ago? Until our legal frameworks figure out how to assign blame to an algorithm, and until our psychology adapts to being passive passengers in our own vehicles, the rollout will be heavily regulated and slow.
Okay, let's pull back and look at the trajectory we've traced so far. Because when you synthesize these sources, a profound picture emerges.
It really does.
We've seen this technology master the biological rules of human tissue in healthcare. We've watched it master the behavioral rules of economics in retail. And we've just seen it mastering the physical laws of motion and liability on city streets.
Right.
In all of those environments, there is a clear objective. Find the cancer. Sell the shoe. Don't crash the car. There's a definitive right and wrong answer.
Yes, very clear parameters.
But what happens when you unleash that exact same pattern-recognizing brain into an arena where there are absolutely no strict rules? What happens when AI steps into the realm of human creativity?
The digest explores this in the entertainment sector, pointing out two distinct applications. The first is an extension of what we saw in retail.
Okay.
Streaming platforms are using sophisticated AI models to recommend personalized content, They analyze your viewing habits, the time of day you watch, and even where you pause a show to keep you infinitely engaged on their platform.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But the second application is a radical departure from anything we've discussed. In the music industry, AI is no longer just recommending songs. It is actively composing new music and collaborating with human artists.
So what does this all mean? Because I need to draw a really sharp distinction for you listening right now. It is one thing for an algorithm to recommend a movie
Right.
that is just advanced pattern matching. It's saying, people who like this thriller also like this documentary. It's the exact same mechanism as the retail chatbot knowing you want boots.
Exactly.
But it is an entirely different universe for an AI to compose a piece of music, to generate a melody, a harmony, a cultural artifact that literally did not exist 10 seconds ago.
This is the disruption of originality itself. Up until this point in the digest, AI has been deployed to optimize existing human processes.
Yeah.
It made a doctor faster, a supply chain cheaper, a car safer. But in the music studio, AI is generating net new culture.
But how is it actually doing that? Is it genuinely being creative, or is it just mathematically averaging millions of songs and spitting out a statistically pleasing sequence of notes?
It is the latter. But the complexity of that math effectively mimics creativity. The AI analyzes the mathematical relationships in millions of audio files.
Okay.
It learns that a specific unresolved chord progression, say a dominant seventh, creates a psychological sense of tension and anticipation in the human brain.
Right, the buildup.
Yes, it knows that following it with a major chord provides a resolution that triggers a dopamine release. It mathematically guarantees an emotional response. Functionally, if the end result gives you chills or moves you to tears, does your brain care that the composer was a server rack calculating audio frequencies instead of a human expressing a broken heart?
That is deeply unsettling, and it brings up the issue the digest flagged about authorship. If I type a prompt into a music-generating AI and it spits out a brilliant symphony, who is the author?
Exactly.
Am I the artist because I had the initial idea and the AI is just a really advanced synthesizer? Or is the AI the co-writer who holds the copyright? We're being forced to completely redefine human creativity when our primary collaborator is a machine.
And our legal system is just as ill-equipped to handle the copyright of an AI-generated song as it is to handle the liability of an AI-caused car crash.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We are applying 20th century definitions of ownership to 21st century synthetic intelligence.
It's staggering when you step back and look at it all at once. Let's wrap this up because the scope of what we've covered from just one single day's news digest is immense.
It really is.
We started out looking for the invisible hand of AI, and we found it pulling strings everywhere. In the span of this deep dive, we've seen how this underlying architecture acts as a diagnostic lifesaver, ensuring our doctors don't miss a lethal detail.
Right.
We've seen it act as a hyper-personalized, slightly manipulative shopper, quietly arranging the global supply chain just so you can buy a jacket on sale. We've seen it act as a chauffeur, calculating physics in real time to navigate chaotic city streets.
Yeah.
And finally, we've seen it act as a co-writer, generating the very art and culture we consume to feel human.
And the most important takeaway is that it is doing all of this simultaneously. It isn't resting.
No.
It's constantly running in the background, processing billions of new data points every second, and getting exponentially better at predicting and shaping outcomes.
And to you listening to this deep dive right now, I want to emphasize that none of this is science fiction. This isn't a theoretical projection of what life might look like in the year 2050.
Not at all.
These are the invisible threads already woven into the fabric of your daily routine.
Yeah.
Today, right now, AI is optimizing your life from the background, constantly nudging, predicting, protecting, and selling.
Which leaves us with a critical thought to mull over, building on that disruption of music and authorship we just discussed.
Okay.
The Digest noted that AI is forcing us to question who the true author of a song is. But consider the alternative, broader implications.
Yeah.
If an invisible intelligence is analyzing your health records to predict your ailments, if it is shaping your purchasing habits before you even open your wallet, if it is physically navigating the streets you travel on, and if it is curating the entertainment that fills your mind,
Yeah.
at what point does AI stop being just a tool that we actively choose to use and start becoming the actual environment we live in?
Wow. If it is the environment.
Exactly. If this invisible hand is silently optimizing all of these choices before you even consciously make them, who's the true author of your daily routine?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? We started by talking about AI as an invisible infrastructure. But maybe it's more than that.
Hmm.
Maybe it isn't just predicting the path we walk on. Maybe it's actually paving the road right in front of our feet, one algorithmic calculation at a time. Something to think about the next time you get a perfectly timed recommendation or a song gives you chills. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.